We are 6 months in, and I keep hearing myself say, we're halfway through, but halfway through what? I made this a year. I picked 12 months. That was my decision, not some kind of natural law. And the more I sit with that, the more I realize the 6-month mark isn't a progress report or some kind of midterm grade. It's just a spot where I'm forcing myself to stop what I'm doing and take a look around. Every journey starts with a choice, and mine is a bet. For 1 year, I'm gambling on energy over strategy. No more forcing and no pushing. Just the courage to show up and see what happens when reality becomes my playground. This isn't a podcast. It's a real-time experiment in the lab of my life. Welcome to the bet. So what this actually is, this 6-month mark, is a forced reflection point. A time to look at what I've done so far and figure out whether it reflects what I want to keep doing. And I've been asking myself a question all week that I want to start with because I think it sets up everything else. The question is, would I keep doing this if the podcast didn't exist? If nobody was watching and there were no episodes to record and no metrics to report and nobody knew what I was up to, would I keep building this business? Keep coaching? Keep thinking about how people's minds work? And I think that question is really hard to answer in the abstract because of course I'd say yes. Everyone says yes to that. It's like when people ask you, what would you do if time and money weren't an issue? Or what would you do if you could do anything in the world? My brain has always struggled to answer questions like that because time and money are issues. They are real constructs that we live with. The question is just like too hypothetical for my brain to grab onto. So I like to use a different angle. And I use this with my clients sometimes when they're trying to figure out what they really want to do. It's going to sound strange, but stick with me. If somehow you found yourself in prison, you landed in prison, how would you be spending your time? Let's not focus on how you got to prison. Just think about it. Mike and I were having some conversation about prison a long time ago. I don't even remember how we got on the topic. And I said to him, if I ever ended up in prison somehow, God knows how that would happen. But if I did, I have zero doubt that I would be setting up some kind of group inside that prison for women who wanted to transform how they think. I would be helping my cellmate reframe her thoughts. I would be making up little mindset exercises for people. You just simply cannot take that out of me. And something about the prison version of that question really works because it strips absolutely everything away. Your life is pretty much stripped down to the very bare basics. You're not worrying about building an audience or a platform or generating revenue. You don't have to come up with a content strategy. You're not trying to get followers, none of it. All you're left with is your time. Lots of time. So what's the thing you would find yourself doing? I think other people's answers would be different. Some people would immediately start working out, trying to build up their physical strength. I think some people would be helping others feel more beautiful or figuring out how to style their prison garb into something more stylish, or helping people learn how to do their hair with nothing when you don't have blow dryers or curling irons. Totally old school beauty techniques. I'm sure some people would invent games to play or organize some kind of events or form reading groups. And I think your answer to that question can tell you a lot about who you are at the core. Mine is, I'd be coaching. It has nothing to do with business. It's just who I am. So Would I keep doing this without the podcast? Yeah. Podcast is just here to keep me accountable and keep me intentional and reflective. But the work I'm doing isn't something I do because I'm recording it. I'm recording it so that I can become exceptional at my work. Big breath there. That felt really true to say. All right, the numbers. Instagram. We had 3,373 views for February. So let me just give you the trajectory here because it tells a story. I peaked at 33,000 views back in November when I was putting out 86 pieces of content. December, I dropped to 34 pieces and my views fell to 12,000. January, same output, roughly the same range. And now February, I'm down to a new low of 3,373 views from just 20 pieces of content, only 4 of which were actual posts. Yikes. 4 damn posts on Instagram for the entire month of February. So my total interactions went down to 130, and my number of accounts reached went down by 78%. Somehow, I gained 15 new followers, which I have no idea how to account for. It must be some kind of trailing indicator of my earlier work, maybe. Who knows? But it's funny. I was really just putting off looking at these numbers entirely. I didn't want to look at them because I knew they'd be bad. And I'm going to be straight about where I am with Instagram. This is data I cannot hide from. I cannot hide from this data. It is forcing me to make a decision, not an emotional decision where I'm embarrassed by the numbers and I feel like I have to start hustling and scrambling to fix it. I'm talking about a business decision because I feel extremely allergic to Instagram right now. I feel like I'm contributing to noise, which goes against everything my work stands for. I know how to make myself show up and post. Those 4 posts that I did were me making myself do it. And making myself do things I don't want to do is going directly against the premise of this entire experiment. So the question I'm sitting with is, how would I make this decision from energy instead of emotion? What feels energetically authentic? What can I even sustain? Is this something I could hire out? Do I even want to hire someone? Is everyone moving away from social media anyway? It's terrible for our brains. And I know that better than most. I haven't explored whether I could start posting more on Substack instead. Maybe that is something worth looking at. I don't have an answer. I honestly hate how much I talk about Instagram every month, and I'm aware that at some point I have to stop talking about it and either do something or let it go. I'm going to strip all the emotion out of this and make it just a clear-eyed business call, but I haven't made it yet. Next up is the bet. 138 downloads for February and a total of 691 in all. I remember looking at the numbers last week and thinking, we might not beat January's numbers. And then I said to myself, stop. Anything could happen. You don't know what February is going to turn out like. There's still like 4 days left. So why are you guessing and assuming what will happen? And I didn't look at it again until today. Pulled it up this morning and somehow 21 downloads came through on the 27th of February, which is tied for the all-time single highest day we've ever had. Back on December 5th was the only other time we've had a spike like that. So we ended up with a stronger February than January. And I caught myself forming a story about this data. There's been a pretty slow but stable growth each month since we started this, except for December, which was some kind of outlier. The downloads spiked in December. Then they went back down in January. And it looked like February was going to be even lower than January. So my brain starts writing this script, telling me people must be finding this podcast, listening through it, and then deciding it's boring and leaving. That's where my brain went with this data. So I had to check myself because first, I have no idea how to interpret podcast download data. I'm not a data analyst, and I've spent zero time researching podcast metrics because that's not even the point of this podcast. Second, I am not in people's heads. I have zero information about what thoughts anyone is having about this, except for the people who have reached out and told me, thank you, hello out there. Third, spending my energy imagining what strangers think about me is only going to pull focus from the thing I'm trying to build. I heard someone a few days ago, big name in the coaching industry, talking on their stories about how so many people market their businesses by saying, you should see where I was 12 months ago, or some form of that. Like, just 12 months ago, I was broke and couldn't pay my rent. Or, just 12 months ago, I was 70 pounds heavier. Or like, just 12 months ago, I was divorced and eating Pop-Tarts on my sofa every night watching Netflix. Like that type of energy. And their point was that nobody shares when they're actually in those shitty times. Everyone waits until they're on the other side of winning something. And then they share and package it all up neatly and deliver it as marketing, which made me laugh because I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm sharing the Pop-Tarts on the sofa moments. I'm sharing the process while it's happening before I know how everything turns out. And whether this ends up being a success story or not, there's something useful in it for anyone listening. Even if someone is listening and thinking, that woman's full of shit, that's really helpful too. It's really helpful. I'm truly helping that person because I'm giving them clarity about what they don't want, about how they don't want to show up. I know I've had that response to other people, thinking I do not want to be like them. That was really useful. That gave me great data. Human beings learn by contrast. We figure out who we are, partly by bumping against who we're not. And we also see parts we might want to adopt or take and make our own. So no matter what, this is useful. Okay, next up is Substack. We have 43 followers, up 3 from last month, 487 views across the month with 4 total posts. And something shifted for me this month with my Substack that I want to spend some time on. I've been really pouring myself into these articles. Every week, I'm getting clearer about how I want to show up there. And this week, I had a turning point. I really want to ensure that I am not just writing articles for the sake of writing articles. I don't want to just educate people. I don't want to use it to market, even though that's a byproduct. I think it was taking the whole month of February to go deep on a subject. I made a whole series last month on developing a love affair with yourself versus other months where I've written just standalone pieces each week. Something about going deep into that series and framing it out and thinking exactly how I want to present it helped me see this. How my Substack is really becoming what I am calling a deliberate thinking practice. That's how I want readers to view this. It's something that they enter into on purpose versus content you just scroll past or read and think that's nice. So we're shifting into making that platform a deliberate exercise in training your brain to think, which connects to a bigger clarity I'm getting about my overall positioning. When I strip everything back, what I do is help people think in a way that's useful to them. That's really what I do. I help women who want to do big things build the thinking that is required to do those things. And I've had another project in my little mental cooker for a while, and this Substack pivot is giving me the final context I really needed to move into the next phase with that. I'm not going to say more about it yet because it's still in progress, and I do not want to leak energy for things before they are done, yet alone even really started, but it is coming. So stay tuned for that. And now onto the revenue number. I did not add any new clients this month. February was a beast at the university, which I'll get to, but I also want to be honest about something. I could absolutely pick up more one-on-one clients if I put more emphasis on it. I know that. Part of why I haven't is that I have been intentionally giving myself more breathing room. But there's another part that I'm going to say out loud for the first time. I realized that if I picked up just a few more coaching clients right now, it would really start to eliminate the practical need for my professor job, which would put me in the position of making a decision I don't think I'm ready to make yet. So I'm using this space to get clear about what my terms are for continuing with the university. What am I wanting to be available for there? And am I stunting my own growth in any way by staying there? Is it providing me with opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have? This last month was a perfect example of why I can't make that decision yet. Because the last 3 weeks of the quarter landed in February, and this quarter is always the most intense one. My students are in their very first clinical rotation, assessing patients for the first time, designing treatment plans, learning to take data and analyze the data and write it all up. It takes a huge amount of my time and energy. And halfway through this quarter, I was sure it was draining me. I was tracking my energy before and during and after different activities on a spreadsheet, and the university was coming up really low. And then finals week came, and I had all these one-on-one meetings with my students. The conversations I got to have with them, not the clinical stuff, but the real stuff we talked about, challenging them to see themselves differently, having the kind of tough conversations that have the potential to shape how someone views who they're becoming as a clinician. That was so challenging, yet so rewarding. Like I felt my soul got an amazing experience. In the notes and the cards they wrote me at the end of the quarter, I could see on paper, in black and white, that I'm having an impact on the kinds of clinicians that they are choosing to be. There's a lot of research in our field, relatively new, about what actually drives clinical outcomes. And I teach them this in the mindset class that I have here. But the breakdown is 40% of your clinical results come from who the clinician is. 40% of your results come from who you are, your personal qualities, your character. 30% of your clinical effectiveness comes from how you connect with the patient, the relationship you build. Only 15% is reliant on the actual intervention, the technique or the approach that you're going to use. And the last 15% is client factors, meaning their motivation and their context. So 70% of what makes treatment effective comes down to the person delivering it and the connection they build. The actual technique is only 15%, which reframes my entire job. Because if I looked at being a professor as just teaching students how to perform assessments and plan evidence-based interventions, I would lose my mind. My eyes would bleed from reading the same documentation over and over. I would feel like a glorified editor. But that is not what I'm doing. I am helping them realize that they are the intervention, that working on who they are and how they share themselves makes a bigger impact than the protocol they're running. I'm always telling them, put down your clipboard, put down your clipboard and connect with your patient. And when I operate from that place, the work lights me up. Most challenging quarter I've ever had, and it ended with a sense of fire, although I'm honestly wiped out. So in every area of my life, my work needs to feel like it matters. That's what tracking my energy has shown me. Writing and coaching and the student conversations, those are all energizing me. Making bet episodes, if I'm being honest, are more of an active discipline, more than joy. I'm a teacher by nature, and showing up each week like this asks me to be the subject instead of the teacher. But I committed to it because I want to see what happens over 12 months. And I'm not going to stop halfway through just because it's not my favorite thing. And then there's this whole other piece I keep circling around, which is how much of running a business is content creation. I don't think people understand the ratio. How much of your time goes to actually delivering what you sell versus how much of it needs to go to making sure people are aware that you and your work even exist. Even people who aren't coaches or service providers deal with this, like authors. Author doesn't just get to write the book and then it's done. They have to sell the book, or they have to use a publisher who takes a massive cut of the profits in order to sell the book for them. Nobody gets to just make things and have them sell. Or is that just a belief I have? Because I think I had this idea that if you make something good enough, the demand will just be there. People will find it. And that's kind of the hypothesis of this whole experiment, energy over strategy, showing up with something real and aligned and seeing if reality reorganizes around it. So 6 months in, here's what I can say about that. Some of my data confirms this. Strangers have found this podcast with zero marketing. Some of my best client relationships have come without me doing anything. And this podcast grows a little more every month, regardless of my Instagram shrinking down to nothing. And some of the data complicates it. Right? Instagram is dying because I am not feeding it. I had no new revenue this month. Content creation is a real part of running any business, whether it excites me or not. So both of those things are true. I can't just focus on one side and pretend the other doesn't exist. I've been really trying to measure my energy, and the things that light me up are getting clearer, like writing and coaching and my amazing student conversations. And the things that drain me are getting clearer too. I still have a decision to make about Instagram. I've got a little something forming that I'm not ready to fully share. I sure don't know what month 12 is going to look like. I don't even know what next month looks like. But I know that the core of who I am is solid and getting stronger. I am someone who would find a way to help other people think in a powerful manner, no matter what. Everything else is just figuring out the logistics of how to get the work to the people who need it without totally selling my soul or draining myself. And I'll figure that out. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me, whoever you are out there. I'm sending you so much energy and respect. Keep building your thing. Keep intentionally choosing what is for you and what is not. And as always, go bet on yourself.